So it's been a while since we have talked, and for background information for those watching, I took my son Ari off of his Adderall for the summer, and he was only on 10 milligrams, which is still a lot, I think, for a little body, but I didn't want it to interrupt his sleep cycle, which is really great right now. And I'm very cognizant of what it does to his appetite.
Mhm.
And I have some other philosophical issues with it that I wonder maybe we can talk about. But anyway, so I took him off it for the summer, and then I met up with a new naturopath who's really helping to get him dialed in with different supplements and minerals to help create more balance in his brain with his serotonin and his dopamine. And it's been a really, in his B12s and his folate, and it's been a really fascinating journey for us on this autism, ADHD. He's got a very rare genetic gene mutation of a protein called the mTOR. Anyway, it's a big deal. All that to be said, at the beginning of the school year, I thought his teacher was like, wow, things are going really well. Whatever your new program is working. And then, 3 weeks, 4 weeks into school, he's like, I don't think it is working. I think actually, I'm not telling you to put your child back on medication. However, I have noticed that it is really challenging. So I've put him back on the Adderall, and I notice that he is able to be more subdued.
Yes.
And I don't love that.
Mm-hmm.
And I also see the benefit of him not being distracting to himself
Mm-hmm.
and to students and but I'm struggling with it. And I'm
Yeah.
struggling with the fact that, like,
We're all struggling with it.
and I hate it, actually. Um
Have you and the teacher exhausted as much as you could strategies to help him stay engaged and also the other question I have is everything developmentally appropriate in the teaching style? So is he expected to sit for longer than what he would ideally be sitting at his developmental level, for example? Is he having to listen to lectures for too long, more than 3 minutes of explanation before he goes off to do the project or task? Um, are there plenty of brain breaks throughout the day where he's able to relax and rejuvenate?
right. So one of the things that's really interesting is I in I've had to manage my expectations of, like, his relationships with peers, and he
Mm.
really enjoys adults. He loves peers, but they don't reciprocate his love for them. It's not reciprocated, and so he gravitates towards adults. And last year I was like, oh, I really want him to interact with kids, but that was like my thing. And so they took that and kind of ran with it this year. And so he does have a one-on-one aide. And apparently, the first few weeks of school, his one-on-one aide was not allowing him to go to his favorite para educator during recess and, like, be her recess buddy.
Hmm.
So there was a couple days where he was having some real odd behavior issues that I was not comfortable with. Like, he was putting hands on people out of frustration. And I said, is he getting to talk to Miss Morgan at recess? I said, because that is where he does this relax and rejuvenate and he's got this list of questions that he wants to know and talk to her about. And they were like, oh no, we haven't been letting him do that. And I'm like, well, that is part of his process. Like, that's part of his regulating. He's co-regulating with her. And
Mhm.
I've said that to them again, where I'm like, I really actually at this point, I don't really care if he's playing around the playground. Like, I'd rather, if she's okay with it and it's not disruptive to her job, I'm okay with it. And so that just is kind of reminding me that I need to stay on it and make sure that they are um, not forcing the things that maybe don't need to be forced. Like, for example, I know that they're also really trying to get him to write independently. And I think there's value in him writing his name, but there are also so many other ways in which he can communicate and get through in this world that I'm like, why are we so fixated on this one little thing that I don't think he's never going to be a sentence writer. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, I know who he's going to be in that regard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're
What
bringing up great. I need
did
to
was
bring,
there a reason that they gave you that he wasn't allowed to be with that teacher or parapro?
I'm they if his teacher whom I have a really great relationship with, I'm wondering if he heard me say I want him to have more peer interaction.
Oh, got you.
But now that I see that it's having such like a, I mean,
Yeah.
he's sad and he's not getting that out, and so then all these questions, and it's like building anxiety in him to
Mhm.
not say those things or be with her. And I think he really felt autonomous with her, like he felt like he could sometimes put away the recess cones or whatever it is. But like keeping him away is just another way that we're micromanaging him. And I am so aware of that. I'm
Mhm.
micro myself, not to micromanage him.
Yeah.
Because I keep hearing like the more autonomous and the more confident and the more independent we offer situations to these kiddos, no matter where they are on the spectrum of life, they're going to do better.
Yes.
For the other day, this is funny. The other day, I walked into the bathroom and I'm like, why does it smell like a urinal in here? And I looked down and there's pee on the floor. And then there was pee in our waste paper basket, which is right next to the toilet. And I thought, good on this little 8-year-old boy who thought it might be cool to pee in the waste paper basket and then pee in the toilet. Like, that's what little boys do. And he had he doesn't ever get to really be independent. And so, was it great? No. Did I learn not to flip my lid? Yes. And I pulled him aside and I said, hey, buddy, what happened in the bathroom? And he was so proud of himself. And he goes, and he knew it was bad. He goes, I peed in the garbage can. I said, I know. Is that where we pee? And he's like, no. I said, was it fun? He's like, yeah. And I said, okay, can we try to do it in the toilet? And I didn't like punish him. I didn't make him feel bad.
Nice. That's beautiful.
And I loved it so much because so much of his experience is micromanaged and watched for his safety, watched for other people's safety, that it's going to make me cry. It's like that was such a typical little boy thing to do, and I just loved it.
Sweet.
Right? Like, I'm also, through this process learning so much about what really matters and like where to focus my energy of like anger or don't, why are we doing this, and like that was just one of those things where it's like, okay, there you have it. So I
I
feel like
love that connection between the more autonomy, the more we allow them to have space to roam with their ideas, the more they just get to experience what it is to be a kid. And mhm.
I have a feeling a lot of special needs moms and dads or caretakers can probably sympathize with me in the fact that those experiences are few and far between.
Yeah. Mhm.
So
Yeah.
So I think what I'm hearing, what I'm feeling is that I need to remind, as important as his aid is, which it is also important for Ari to experience more autonomy in his choices at school within the realm of safety and like um and also recognizing, like, are we holding developmentally appropriate expectations for him right now?
Yeah, I would say that in the context of specially designed instruction where the requirement is it's understandably, I understand that it's a unrealistic requirement, legal requirement because of the way schools are set up and money allocation, but to medicate a child because they cannot do something that is not really developmentally appropriate anyway, it's unethical. But because of the way schools are set up, it's like, what are you going to do? This is how the system works. So it's a difficult catch 22 in that sense. It's a dilemma.
Yeah, and we can talk about this more. I'll write it down because it's also, he's in a special needs class and he's in a class with peers that are kindergartners through second grade, and there are some kiddos in there with much higher supports and much higher needs and much more severe behavioral problems, and so it's like he's picking up on that too, and then that's mimicking, um and then they move him,
People,
and then
go
they
ahead.
move him in ed class, and then he's expected to like behave like the gen ed kids, and I
Yeah.
want him in the class more, and so it's like this, and yet he still needs a lot of the special attention of special ed, so it's just like
Though that mimicking that kids do, they're just trying it out. They're just trying out different strategies of being, different tools of existing, and
yeah,
so that they can feel what it feels like to do that. And then they can pull out the right tool for the right situation.
yeah,
So it's not necessarily terrible for him to have models that aren't what you want to see.
I agree, and I'm like, I am so happy for who my child is and that he gets to experience all of these different people and be so open-minded to
Yeah,
the whole world of differences.
that's
That
cool.
said, I don't like it when you know he sees a child who's dysregulated and nonverbal, like hitting his teachers. And then Ari gets frustrated and he hits his teacher.
Oh, well, that's probably some training that could happen for the teacher,
Okay.
where the teacher learns how to de-escalate by not talking and explaining, for example, and not pushing a child who is in challenge into giving them more challenge and pushing them into threat. That's usually where that's coming from, is that they just need to understand that safety, challenge, threat triad.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
People
And
who and people who understand that triad generally don't get hit.
what do you do about the like automatic responses sometimes? And that's a word that I got from ABA, which where it's like sometimes Ari will just be walking and he gets bored and he like will hit.
You stop, you look at that, you reflect on it like, oh, your body just wanted to hit. And, you know, what does your body really need? Does it need to get out the extra energy? Can we wiggle? And so that he can build his reflective capacity and start gaining tools for what his body needs and awareness that his body is, oh, he did that because his body needed something. So what can we use to help our bodies?
Okay. Okay.